The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most protracted and complex conflicts in the world. It has its roots in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The conflict centers around the control and ownership of a small strip of land in the Middle East. This land holds deep religious and historical significance for both Israelis and Palestinians. The conflict has resulted in countless wars, uprisings, and terrorist attacks. It has left a trail of devastation and displacement in its wake. The conflict is not just a regional issue, it has global implications. It fuels tensions between the West and the Muslim world. It also complicates international relations and peace efforts. The conflict is a stark reminder of the human cost of unresolved historical grievances. It highlights the urgent need for a peaceful and just resolution. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a human tragedy on a massive scale. It is a conflict that has claimed the lives of countless innocent people. It has left generations scarred by violence and loss. The conflict is a stain on the conscience of humanity. It demands the attention and action of the international community. Finding a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is crucial for achieving lasting peace in the Middle East. It is a complex and challenging task, but it is a task that must be undertaken if we are to create a more just and peaceful world. The land at the heart of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has a rich and ancient history. It is a land that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Ruled by different peoples and cultures, its significance is intertwined with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Ancient Jewish kingdoms left a legacy that shapes the region today. Conquered by Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, and Romans, each empire left its mark. This history contributes to the complex tapestry of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The land's religious significance extends to Christians and Muslims as well. It is the place where Jesus lived and where the Al-Aqsa Mosque stands. In the late 19th century, a new movement emerged among European Jews: Zionism. Zionism was a nationalist movement that sought to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The movement was a response to the growing anti-Semitism and persecution that Jews faced in Europe. Theodor Herzl is considered the father of modern political Zionism. He believed that the only way to ensure the safety and security of the Jewish people was to create a Jewish state in their ancient homeland. Herzl's ideas resonated with many Jews who were facing increasing discrimination and violence. Zionism gained momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Jewish immigration to Palestine increased, leading to tensions with the Arab population already living there. The arrival of Zionist settlers sparked resentment among some Arabs who felt their land was being taken away from them. The Zionist movement was not without its internal divisions. There were disagreements over the best way to achieve a Jewish state. Some Zionists advocated for diplomacy and negotiation, while others believed that armed struggle was necessary. These divisions within Zionism would have lasting consequences for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Following World War I, the Ottoman Empire, which had ruled over Palestine for centuries, collapsed. The land came under the control of Great Britain. In 1920, the League of Nations granted Britain a mandate to administer Palestine. This period became known as the British Mandate. The British Mandate was a time of growing tension and conflict between the Jewish and Arab populations in Palestine. The British faced the difficult task of balancing the competing demands of these two groups. Their policies often exacerbated tensions rather than alleviating them. In 1917, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration. This declaration expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The declaration was welcomed by Zionists as a major victory. However, it was met with anger and resentment by the Arab population, who viewed it as a betrayal by the British. The Balfour Declaration's vague wording, particularly the phrase "national home," created confusion and fueled tensions. The declaration did not specify what form this national home would take, whether it meant a Jewish state or something else. This ambiguity would have lasting consequences for the region. Section 5, Birth of Israel and the Arab-Israeli War. In the aftermath of World War II and the Holocaust, there was growing international sympathy for the Zionist cause. The horrors of the Holocaust strengthened the resolve of many to establish a Jewish state as a refuge for Jews who had suffered persecution. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. The partition plan was accepted by the Jewish leadership but rejected by the Arab leadership. The partition plan was never fully implemented. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. The very next day, neighboring Arab states, including Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq, invaded Israel. This marked the beginning of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, also known as the War of Independence in Israel and the Nakba, or catastrophe by Palestinians. The war resulted in a decisive victory for Israel. By the end of the war, Israel had captured more territory than it had been allocated under the UN partition plan. Jordan occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem, while Egypt took control of the Gaza Strip. Section 6. Decades of conflict and displacement. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War had a profound impact on the region. It led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. These refugees fled their homes in what became Israel and sought refuge in neighboring Arab countries. The issue of Palestinian refugees and their right of return remains one of the most contentious issues in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The war also solidified the division of Jerusalem, with Jordan controlling East Jerusalem, including the Old City, and Israel controlling West Jerusalem. The decades following the 1948 war witnessed a series of wars and uprisings. In 1967, Israel fought the Six-Day War against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. This war resulted in a swift and decisive victory for Israel, which captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, the Sinai Peninsula, and the Golan Heights. The 1967 war had far-reaching consequences. It led to the further displacement of Palestinians and the expansion of Israeli settlements in the occupied territories. The war also left Israel in control of a much larger Palestinian population, which it has been governing ever since. Section 7. Glimmer of Hope. The Oslo Accords. In the 1990s, a glimmer of hope emerged with the signing of the Oslo Accords. These accords were a series of agreements between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO. They aimed to achieve a peaceful resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through a two-state solution. The Oslo Accords were a landmark achievement. They marked the first time that Israel and the PLO formally recognized each other. The Accords also established the Palestinian Authority, or PA, which was granted limited self-governance in parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. However, the Oslo Accords failed to resolve the core issues of the conflict. The Accords did not address the final status of Jerusalem, the settlements, the borders, or the refugees. The Accords also did not put an end to the violence. The assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin by a Jewish extremist in 1995 dealt a severe blow to the peace process. Rabin had been a key architect of the Oslo Accords. His assassination underscored the deep divisions within Israeli society over the peace process. Section 8. The current crisis, a turn for the worse. In recent years, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has witnessed a dangerous escalation of violence and a hardening of positions on both sides. The collapse of the peace process, the expansion of Israeli settlements, and the internal divisions within Palestinian society have all contributed to the current crisis. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, leading to the deadliest conflict in the region in decades. The conflict has resulted in thousands of casualties on both sides, with the majority of victims being Palestinian civilians in Gaza. The recent conflict has had devastating humanitarian consequences, particularly in Gaza. The densely populated enclave has been subjected to a heavy bombardment by Israeli forces. This has resulted in widespread destruction of infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and homes. The international community has been struggling to broker a ceasefire. However, diplomatic efforts have been hampered by the deep mistrust between the parties and the complex geopolitical dynamics of the region. Section 9. Understanding a complex reality. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a complex and multifaceted conflict with a long and painful history. It is a conflict that has defied easy solutions and continues to cast a long shadow over the Middle East. Understanding the historical context, the key events, and the evolving dynamics of the conflict is crucial for any meaningful discussion or analysis of the situation. The conflict is not just a political dispute over land and resources. It is also a human tragedy that has caused immense suffering for both Israelis and Palestinians. It is essential to acknowledge and empathize with the pain and loss experienced by all sides. Despite the challenges, it is crucial to remain hopeful and to continue working towards a just and lasting peace. Achieving peace will require dialogue, compromise, and a willingness to listen to and understand the narratives of all sides. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a reminder that peace is not a destination but a journey that requires patience, perseverance, and a commitment to justice and human dignity.